Armstrong, and this is Pointless, the quiz show where the lowest scorers are the biggest winners. To stay in the game, our contestants need to score as few points as possible, and the way they do that is by giving those obscure answers that everyone else forgets. We've asked all our questions on Pointless to 100 people before the show. All our contestants have to do is find those little-known answers that as few of our 100 people gave as possible. So, for example, we gave 100 people 100 seconds to name as many films featuring Leonardo DiCaprio as they could, and we found out that 88 of them said Titanic, an obvious answer that would score you a horribly high 88 points. However, only 30 of them said Catch Me If You Can, a lesser-known film that would score you a respectably low 30 points. Now, occasionally there are even some answers that none of our 100 people could name. So, for example, none of them said This Boy's Life. So that would have been a truly pointless film featuring Leonardo DiCaprio. That would score you absolutely nothing. That is exactly what you want. And if you find any of those, then we will add £250 to today's jackpot. So let's meet today's players. Welcome, Mark and Debbie. You are our first pair on the show. How do you two know each other?
We've known each other for about 4 years. We both work at the same firm of solicitors.
Very good. Best of luck. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Our next pair are Jean and David. Welcome to the show. How do you two know each other?
I met him at birth.
You met him at birth? I've been there.
Son.
How long ago was that, David?
29 years.
29 years.
No, you
Very
can't believe
good.
it.
No, I can't. I can't. I was going to say 14. Excellent. Welcome to the show. On to our third pair, Ruth and Pauline. Welcome back. We give everyone 2 chances to reach the Pointless final, and today is your final chance. Remind us how you two know each other.
Our children, we met when our children went to nursery together 8 years ago.
Very good. And how did you get on yesterday?
We did not bad. We're halfway there, but we're hoping to go all the way today.
Very good. Well, best of luck to you. Welcome to Sarah and Paul. How do you two know each other?
We work in a wine bar in Canary Wharf together.
And when you're sort of tidying up at the end of a busy night, polishing off the leftovers, you swap general knowledge facts, I'm guessing.
Well, we're actually here to see who actually knows the most about general pointless facts.
Well, you've come to the right place. And finally, it is hello to Louis and Christopher.
Hello.
Welcome to the show. How do you two know each other?
We perform as the Elderly Brothers, the original and probably now the oldest boy band in Britain.
Very good. You guitarists?
I'm an excellent guitarist, and my partner here is a very, very bad guitarist.
Well, he's not plugged in, you mean? Is that it?
Full stop, he's not plugged in, that's right.
Well, we'll see about that. Very best of luck to you. I hope you'll all be plugged in for this. As ever, there is one final person I need to introduce to you. He is the man with all the pointless facts at his fingertips. He is my pointless friend. It's Richard. Richard, how are you?
I'm very well. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you. And you alone know what sort of show we have ahead of us.
Absolutely. I've got all the questions here. I've got all the answers here as well. At the end of each round, I will take everyone in the studio and everyone at home through all the best answers you can come up with, the pointless answers that none of our 100 people gave. But I will also take you all through the worst possible things you can say, the obvious ones, the ones that everybody has said. I should point out, you don't know any of the questions on today's show or any of the answers. So best of luck to everybody.
Thanks very much, Richard. Yesterday's finalists, Chris and Dan, won the jackpot of £1,250. So today's jackpot starts all over again and stands at £1,000. But remember, if you find some pointless answers along the way, each one of those will add £250 to that total amount. So let's play Pointless. In the first round, each of you must give me one answer and you cannot confer with your partner. You will score 1 point for every one of the 100 people that gave that same answer. And remember, this is pointless, so you're trying to find the least well-known answers and score the fewest points. If anyone gives me an incorrect answer, they will, I'm afraid, score the maximum of 100 points, so be careful. If you do give an incorrect answer, this will happen. You really don't want to see that. At the end of the round, your combined score will be totalled up and the highest scoring pair will be eliminated. Only 2 pairs make it through to our head-to-head semi-final, so the pressure is really on. OK, our first category is pop music. pop music. Can you decide in your pairs who's going to go first, who's going to go second? And whoever's going first, please step up to the podium. OK, let's find out what our first question is going to be. We gave 100 people 100 seconds to name as many UK Eurovision entrants as they could. Richard, can you be more specific than that?
Yeah, we're looking for any artist or group who have represented the United Kingdom in the Eurovision Song Contest since its inception in 1956. There are 50 answers here, and it won't surprise you to know an awful lot of them are pointless.
I bet they are. Right, Mark and Debbie, before the show you all drew lots, and it turns out today you will be starting us off. So, Mark, what are you going to go for?
OK, I'll say Samantha Janus.
Samantha Janus. OK, remember, if it is an incorrect answer, you will score the maximum of 100 points. Let's see how many of our 100 people said Samantha Janus. It's the right answer. Very good, look at that, 3. That means that 3 of our 100 people said Samantha Janus. That gives you a fantastic opening score of 3. Richard, Samantha Janus.
Yeah, Samantha Janus, 1991, A Message to Your Heart. Fairly obscure knowledge, that.
Very good, on to our next pair. Jean, what are you going to go with?
I seem to remember a couple called Pearl Carr and Teddy Johnson.
Pearl Carr and Teddy Johnson. Let's see how many of our 100 people went with Pearl Carr and Teddy Johnson. Well, it's correct. Oh, it's going to be good, this one. Look at that! 4! That means that 4 of our 100 people went with Pearl Carr and Teddy Johnson. Pearl Carr and Teddy Johnson,
And Teddy
Richard.
Johnson. 1959, one of the first ever UK Eurovision entries, Sing Little Birdie.
OK, we are looking for UK Eurovision entrants, and everyone so far has shown some fantastic, obscure knowledge. OK, Ruth and Pauline. Ruth, what are you going to go for?
No pressure, eh? Gina G.
Gina G. Let's see, how many of our 100 people went with Gina G? It's good. It's another good one. Look at that, 8. That means that 8 of our 100 people said Gina G. That gives you a score of 8. Gina G, Richard.
Yeah, of course, in 1996, Ooh Ah Just a Little Bit, which didn't win Eurovision, but did go to #1 in the charts, which is a rare feat.
Very good. On to our 4th pair, Paul and Sarah. Paul, what are you going to go with?
Scooch.
Hoping nobody could remember Scooch because they were so brilliant. Let's see how many of our 100 people went with Scooch. It's correct. Oh, it's good. It's another good one. Look at that, 6. That means that 6 of our 100 people said Scooch, and that scores Paul and Sarah 6 points. Richard, Scooch.
Yes, Scooch. They came 22nd out of, I think, 20.
OK, we are looking for UK Eurovision entrants. Christopher and Louis. Christopher.
I think I'll go with Lindsay DePaul.
Lindsay DePaul. Let's see how many of our 100 people said Lindsay DePaul. Well, it's correct. It's good. Look at that. 2. That means, of course, that only 2 of our 100 people said Lindsay DePaul. That gives you a score of 2. Richard, Lindsay DePaul.
Yeah, Lindsay DePaul, of course, actually with Mike Moran and Rock Bottom, their song.
We are halfway through the round. Let's see how we are on the scoreboard. Louis and Christopher looking pretty good on 2. Our highest scorer, with only 8, is the pair called Ruth and Pauline. You've just got to hope that everyone else scores high and you score low in the next pass, but very best of luck. Now we're going to come back up the line. Can the second players take their places at the podium, please? OK, Louis. Louis, it is your turn. You are the low scorers at the moment. The high scorers are Ruth and Pauline on 8. So to be absolutely safe, you want to be coming in at 5 or less. OK?
There was a duo even older than Chris and myself called the Allisons, and I believe they got to number 2 in 1959 with a song called Are You Sure? The Allisons.
The Allisons. That's fantastic. OK, you see that red line at the bottom there? That is your safety margin. If you are below that red line, you are definitely in the next round. If you are above that red line, you are in danger of being the pair with the highest score. OK, let's see. How many of our 100 people went with the Allisons? Oh, it's good. Down it goes. You're safe, and it's pointless. That means that none of our 100 people said the Allisons, and it adds £250 to today's jackpot, which now stands at £1,250. The Allisons, Richard.
Yeah, well, normally I'd say what the song was called, where it, where it finished, where it got in the charts, but you've done all of that. It was Are You Sure? Second in the Eurovision, second in the charts. The only reason I still have a job is because it wasn't 59, it was 1961. But a brilliant, brilliant answer.
Oh, Louis!
Yeah.
Terrible. Sorry, folks.
Many congratulations to you, Louis and Christopher. You have a low score of 2. You are definitely through to the next round. On to our next pair, Sarah and Paul. Sarah, we are looking for a UK Eurovision entrant. What are you going to go with?
I think Jordan did it. I can't remember if she did it with Peter Andre or not.
OK. Jordan, you are currently on 6. The high scorers at the moment are Pauline and Ruth on 8, all incredibly low scores. To avoid being the highest scorers yourselves, you want to be scoring 1 or less with Jordan. If Jordan is wrong, you will, I'm afraid, score the maximum of 100 points. Let's see how many of our 100 people said Jordan. Sarah. Unfortunately, that is a wrong answer, which means you score 100 points. That takes your total up to 106. That's great news for Pauline and Ruth. Whew. You're at quite a nice margin of 98 there, just to keep you safe. Richard, Jordan, with or without Peter Andre?
Yeah, I don't know which I prefer. She did actually. She entered the Song for Europe.
She didn't get into the. She didn't.
No, she didn't.
represent us.
She lost in the Song for Europe, I'm afraid.
Bad luck. OK, on to our next pair. You are currently on 8. We are looking for a UK Eurovision entrant. The high scorers now are Sarah and Paul on 106. You want to be scoring 97 or less to be sure of going through to the next round. What are you going to go with, Pauline?
Well, I've got to say I feel the pressure's off a little bit.
A little bit.
I'm going to go for Andy Abrahams.
Andy Abrahams. Let's see how many of our 100 people said Andy Abrahams. Good. Very good. That means that 17 out of our 100 people said Andy Abrahams. That brings your total up to 25. Phew-ee, you're safe, you're through. That now means, obviously, that Sarah and Paul, you are unavoidably the highest scorers in this round, because even if David and Jean or Debbie and Mark were to score 100 points, they still wouldn't overtake your high score of 106. So I'm afraid you will be eliminated at the end of this round. However, for the remaining pairs, there are lots of pointlesses out there, and each one's worth £250. So, on to you, David and Jean. David, what's it going to be?
I think a lot of them have been said, but it might be obvious, but you never know. Katrina and the Waves.
Katrina and the Waves. Let's see how many of our 100 people said Katrina and the Waves. It's a correct answer. Very good. That means 27 of our 100 people said Katrina and the Waves. That brings your score up to 31. So, Richard, Katrina and the Waves.
Yeah, it's Britain's last winner in 1997 with Love Shine a Light.
On to our last pair, Debbie and Mark. Debbie, what's it going to be?
The only one I could think of, I'm hoping I'm right, but I have a feeling it's wrong, was that they were a duet, brother and sister. Gemini.
Gemini. They sound great. Let's see how many of our 100 people said Gemini. goes 7. That means that 7 of our 100 people said Gemini. That brings your total up to 10. So that's the end of round 1, and the losing pair with the highest score, I'm afraid, is Sarah and Paul. Bad luck there, guys. You feeling a bit let down there, Paul?
Be honest.
I'm honest.
A little bit. Well, Richard, what answers should they have gone for if they'd wanted to stay in?
I mean, there are 21 pointless answers here. There's been an awful lot of pointless Eurovision songs. Patricia Breedon, Ronnie Carroll, who was in it twice. Imani, she got no point, nil point. Bardo, Scott Fitzgerald. And Nikki French, who her song was called Don't Play That Song Again. The worst answers, the worst ones you could have had. You guys want to have a go? Who do you think were the most popular answers, the worst things you could have said?
Cliff Richard.
Bucks
Bucks
Fizz.
Fizz.
Cliff, number 1. Absolutely right. Bucks Fizz, number 2. Lulu, number 3.
Look at that.
Clean sweep. Well done.
Fantastic. Well, thanks very much, Richard. OK, Sarah and Paul, remember everyone gets 2 chances to reach our pointless final, so we'll see you again next time for your final chance. Thanks so much for playing. Cheers. For the remaining 4 pairs, though, it's time for round 2. OK, guys, the round 2 category is actors. Actors. OK, so decide in your pairs who's going to go first, who's going to go second. And whoever's going first, please step up to the podium. Now, remember, Pointless is all about scoring the fewest points. You're looking for the answers that the fewest of our 100 people said. OK, let's find out what the question is. We gave 100 people 100 seconds to name as many feature films starring Will Smith as they could. Richard, can you be more specific?
Yeah, we're looking for films made for general cinema release where Will Smith gets an acting credit. No short films, no TV films, no documentaries. There are 19 films on the list.
OK, so 19 films to pick from. Right, Debbie and Mark, you're going first. Debbie, you're first up. What are you going to say?
The only one I can think of, which might be slightly obscure but still quite popular, is Bad Boys.
Bad Boys, very good. Let's see how many of our 100 people said Bad Boys. It's good. Good. It's good, 18. That means that 18 out of our 100 people said Bad Boys, gives you a score of 18. Our next pair, David and Jean. David, what are you going to say?
I'm going to go for The Pursuit of Happiness.
OK, let's see how many of our 100 people said The Pursuit of Happiness. Another good one. Look at that. That means 19 of our 100 people said The Pursuit of Happiness. OK, we are looking for feature films starring Will Smith. Next pair, Ruth. What are you going to say?
Again, this is not one of my strong subjects, so I'm just going to go with Men in Black 2.
Let's see how many of our 100 people said Men in Black 2. Down it goes, 39. Not bad. That means 39 out of our 100 people said Men in Black 2. That gives Ruth and Pauline a score of 39. They are now our high scorers. On to our last pair. Christopher.
Beverly Hills Cops 2.
Beverly Hills Cop 2. Let's see how many of our 100 people said Beverly Hills Cop 2. Unfortunately, that is a wrong answer, and that means you scored a maximum of 100 points. Richard, Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Yeah, Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
Not Will Smith, yeah.
OK, well, we are halfway through the round, so let's take a look at the scores. Mark and Debbie, you're doing fantastically well on 18. Keep up that low scoring, and you will definitely be through to the next round. Things are looking a bit cagey for Louis and Christopher there. You've scored 100, the maximum possible there. You've just got to go for a pointless on the return and hope everyone else scores as high as possible. OK, we're now going to come back up the line. Will the second players please take their places at the podium? OK, Louis, it's your turn. You are on 100. You are the high scorers. You have to score as low as you possibly can here. We are looking for feature films starring Will Smith.
I think I've got the wrong guy. I'm going for Muhammad Ali.
Let's see how many of our 100 people said Muhammad Ali. It's good. Oh, that's very good. Look at that. 9. That means 9 of our 100 people said Muhammad Ali. That brings your total up to 109. Christopher, Louis got you out of a hole there.
Hopefully.
Oh, well done. Richard, Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, Ali is the name of the film. He was certainly in that. He was nominated for an Oscar for it in 2001.
Very good. On to our next pair. Pauline, you are currently on 39. Louis and Christopher are our current high scorers on 109. That means you want to be scoring 69 or less to be certain of going through to the next round.
I think I'm going to take some inspiration from Debbie and go for Bad Boys 2.
Bad Boys 2. OK, there is the red line. You're below that red line, you're through to the next round. You're above that red line, you become the high scorers, and you are in danger of being eliminated at the end of this round. Let's see how many of our 100 people went with Bad Boys 2. It's good. You're safe. You're better than safe. Look at that, 15. Not bad. That means that 15 of our 100 people said Bad Boys 2. That gives you a total of 54 and sees you comfortably through to the next round. On to our next pair, Jean. To avoid being the high scorers, you have to score 89 or less. We are looking for feature films starring Will Smith.
I'm going to have to just go for Men in Black.
You're going to go for Men in Black. There's the red line. You have to be below that to be sure of going on to the next round. Let's see how many of our 100 people said Men in Black. Oh, you're safe. Whew. That, of course, means that 69 out of our 100 people said Men in Black. That brings your total up to a safe 88. On to our final pair. Mark, you are currently on 18. The high scorers at the moment are Louis and Christopher on 109. You want to be scoring 90 or less, otherwise you will be leaving at the end of this round.
I'm going to go for a truly awful film that he was in, Wild Wild West.
Wild Wild West. Let's see how many of our 100 people said Wild Wild West. It's good enough. Could be a truly pointless film. Sadly, it's not. That means that 18 of our 100 people said Wild Wild West. That gives you another score of 18, taking your total up to 36. So at the end of round 2, the losing pair with the highest score, I'm afraid, is Christopher and Louis. Bad luck, guys. You both said that wasn't your strong suit, was it?
Not in the slightest, no.
No, it's, not good for us, that. We're just too old for that, I'm afraid.
Richard, what answers should they have gone for if they'd wanted to do better?
Well, there was only one pointless answer, and that was Will Smith's first ever movie, which is called Where the Day Takes You. His second ever movie, Made in America, with Whoopi Goldberg and Ted Danson. That got 1 point. And The Legend of Bagger Vance. Let's take a look at the worst answers you possibly given. We've already had the 2 worst answers we could have had. Jean gave us Men in Black, which is the worst answer of all. Ruth gave us Men in Black 2, which is the second worst. And just because there wasn't a Men in Black 3, the third answer was Independence Day.
Well, thanks, Richard. OK, Louis and Christopher, you've wasted one of your chances to get through to the pointless final. We have to say goodbye to you for today, but we'll see you next time for your last chance. Thanks so much for playing. You've been great.
Thank you.
For the remaining 3 pairs, it's time for round 3. OK, remember, only 2 pairs will make it through to the head-to-head, so this is your final chance. All of you need to find those low-scoring answers to stay in the game. The round 3 category is politics. There we are, politics. So who's going to go first? Who's going to go second? Right, whoever's going first, please step up to the podium. Let's find out what that question's going to be. We gave 100 people 100 seconds to name as many First Ladies of the United States of America as they could. Richard, what does that mean?
I think that's pretty tough. It's any woman who has been married to a President of the United States since 1900. They must have been married to him while he was in the White House during his term or his terms of office. And I'm going to need first names and surnames. Surnames is not going to do on this one, I'm afraid.
Thanks very much, Richard. Remember, you need to score the fewest points, so you need to give the answer the fewest of our 100 people said. Debbie, you are first. Who's it going to be?
I think it's Eleanor Roosevelt.
Eleanor Roosevelt. If it's an incorrect answer, it will give you the maximum of 100 points. Let's see how many of our 100 people said Eleanor Roosevelt. Well, it's good. Very good. Look at that. Look at that. 6. That means that 6 of our 100 people said Eleanor Roosevelt. On to our next pair. David, who are you going to go with?
I'm going to go with Nancy Reagan.
Let's see how many of our 100 people said Nancy Reagan. That's a correct answer. Well, that means 51 out of our 100 people said Nancy Reagan. That scores you a pretty high 51. On to our final pair. Pauline. We're looking for First Ladies of the United States of America. The more obscure, the better.
I'm going to go for the brand new one, Michelle Obama.
Michelle Obama. Remember, we are looking for the lowest possible score. Let's see how many of our 100 people said Michelle Obama. Not bad. Not bad at all. 47. That means 47 of our 100 people said Michelle Obama. That scores you 47 points. Well, we're halfway through the round. Let's just have a quick look at the scores. Mark and Debbie looking extremely safe there on 6. If you can keep up that low scoring, you're through to the next round. Jean and David, though, 51. You are our highest scorers. You've got to aim to score as low as you possibly can in the next pass. OK, we're going to come back down the line. Can the second players please take their places at the podium? Now then, Ruth, you are on 47. You are only 4 points below our high scorers, Jean and David, who are on 51. To be absolutely sure of getting through to the next round, you want to be scoring 3 or less with this answer. We're looking for First Ladies of the United States of America.
I'm going to have to go for a popular one, Barbara Bush.
There's your red light. I don't know if you can see it. It's down there. There we are. Oh. Above that red line, you're in danger of being our highest scorer and leaving at the end of this round. Below that red line, you're definitely staying on. Let's see how many of our 100 people said Barbara Bush. It's good. That means that 34 out of our 100 people said Barbara Bush. That takes your total up to 81. You are now our high scorers on 81. Jean and David, we're looking for First Ladies of the United States of America. You are currently on 51. To avoid being our highest scorers, you have to be scoring 29 or less. So you come in below Ruth and Pauline's high score of 81.
President Lyndon Johnson had a wife who was known by a nickname. She was well known by a nickname. Am I allowed to use her nickname?
Yes, we can accept the nickname.
Lady Bird Johnson.
You're going to go with Lady Bird Johnson. There's the red line. Below that red line, you're definitely staying on for the next round. Above that red line, you are in danger of being booted off. Let's see how many of our 100 people said Lady Bird Johnson. It's good. It's very good. Look at that. 10 points. That means 10 out of our 100 people said Lady Bird Johnson. That gives you 10 points, bringing your total up to 61. Richard, Lady Bird Johnson.
Yes, she was Claudia Johnson, but universally known as Lady Bird Johnson.
That takes you up to 61, which means you are definitely through to the next round. OK, finally, Mark. We're looking for First Ladies of the United States of America. I need hardly remind you of what the stakes are. 81 is our high score. That's Ruth and Pauline there. If you want to make it through to the next round, you have to be scoring 74 or less.
I'll try Martha Washington.
Let's see how many of our 100 people went with Martha Washington. Oh! Unfortunately, that is a wrong answer. That means you score the maximum of 100 points. That's great news for Ruth and Pauline, but I'm afraid, Mark and Debbie, that means you are leaving the show now. Richard?
Of course, it's pre-1900, George Washington. Long time pre-1900.
What else, Richard? What else could they have said?
Well, there were 6 pointless answers, lots from sort of the very early part of the 20th century. You got Ida McKinley, who's William McKinley's wife, Edith Roosevelt, who's Teddy Roosevelt's wife, Helen Taft, who was William Taft's wife, Ellen Wilson and Edith Wilson, both of whom were married to Woodrow Wilson in more liberal times, and Elizabeth Truman, who is Harry S. Truman's wife. If you've got any of those at home, congratulations. Very, very tough. Let's have a look at the worst answers you could have given, the most obvious ones. We've already had third place. Pauline, you gave us Michelle Obama, who was third. David, you gave us Nancy Reagan. That's the second worst answer. And the worst answer of all, the one that most people knew, anybody?
Hillary Clinton.
Hillary Clinton, that's exactly right. Most popular answer.
Thanks very much, Richard. OK, Mark and Debbie, you've wasted one of your chances to get through to the pointless final. We'll have to say goodbye to you for today. But we'll see you next time for your last chance. Thanks so much for playing. You've been great. But for the remaining 2 pairs, things are about to get even more exciting now as we enter the head-to-head. So well done, Ruth and Pauline, Jean and David. You've made it through to the head-to-head. Now, only one pair can make it through to today's final and play for today's jackpot, which currently stands at £1,250. OK, here's how the head-to-head works. You are now allowed to confer. Each team will take turns to give me an answer, and you'll each have an equal number of turns. The first team that accumulates more than 100 points, or the team that goes over 100 by the most, will lose. So, as always, to stay in the game, you want to score as few points as possible by saying the answers that the fewest of our 100 people gave. OK, Ruth and Pauline, you performed best over the first 3 rounds, so not only do you get to decide whether or not you go first, you also get to choose the topic, and your choice is between tennis champions or the Americas. Tennis champions or the Americas?
Tennis, yeah. Tennis champions.
It's going to be tennis champions. And would you like to go first or second?
First.
First.
OK, let's play Pointless. Right, well, let's find out what the question is. We gave 100 people 100 seconds to name as many winners of the Wimbledon men's singles title since 1970 as they could. Richard, what do you think I'm going to ask you now?
Well, to elaborate, there's not a huge amount of elaboration I can do. We're simply looking for the names of any of the 18 men who've won the men's singles title at Wimbledon since 1970.
And remember, you don't want to go over 100. OK, so you want to score the lowest number of points each time. What are those Wimbledon men's champions that nobody else can think of? OK, Ruth and Pauline.
Gorovich. Ivan Gorovich.
Ivan Gorovich.
Yes, something like that.
Ivan Gorovich. OK, let's see how many of our 100 people went with Ivan Gorovich. If it is incorrect, of course, you will score the maximum of 100 points. Ah! That, I'm afraid, is an incorrect answer. You have scored 100 points. You haven't yet gone over 100 points. You keep those pointlesses coming, and you're in this game forever. OK, our next pair, Jean and David. What are you going to go with?
Nadal.
You're going to go with Nadal. Let's see how many of our 100 people said Nadal. That's a correct answer. It's not bad. That, of course, means that 45 of our 100 people said Nadal. You've each had one answer. Ruth and Pauline, you need to be careful now. Your next answer could take you over 100 points, and you could risk leaving the game. And remember, it's winners of the Wimbledon men's singles title since 1970.
Well, we're going to go over 100 anyway, but we're going to go for Pete Sampras.
OK. You're going to go for Pete Sampras. Good luck. Let's see how many of our 100 people went with Pete Sampras. There it is. 67 of our 100 people said Pete Sampras. That takes your score up to 167. OK, Jean and David, normally we'd ask you to give us another answer so that both teams have had an equal number of turns, but you've scored so few points, and Ruth and Pauline have scored so many that there's no way you could ever score enough to lose now. So you are through to our pointless final. Ruth and Pauline. I'm guessing that really wasn't your subject, was it?
Neither of them were, no.
Richard?
Well, let's clear up the mysterious case of Ivan Gorovich. You did get all the right syllables, just not necessarily in the right order. It's called Goran Ivanisevic.
Well, Richard, what other answers should they have gone for?
Well, there were no pointless answers, but there were 3 answers which would have got you 2 points. These were the lowest answers. Jan Kodis won in 1973. He won when lots of the main players went on strike. Stan Smith, the American, he won in 72. And John Newcombe won in 70 and 71.
Thanks, Richard. Ruth and Pauline, that was your second and final chance on the show. You just didn't have that pointless tennis knowledge you needed to get through to the final. So we do have to say goodbye, but thank you so much for playing. You've been great. But for Jean and David, it's time for our pointless final. Congratulations, Jean and David. It's only your first time on the show, and you've already made it to the end of Pointless. You've fought off all the competition, and you've won our coveted Pointless trophy. Now you've got a chance to win our Pointless jackpot. Today's jackpot stands at £1,250. The rules are very simple. To win the money, all you have to do is find a pointless answer that none of our 100 people could think of. We've only had one pointless answer today. Neither of you gave it, but let's hope you can find one now. First, you must choose a category from these 3 options. You can go for World Geography, American Actresses, or Arthurian Legend. How's that?
Do the actresses. We can confer.
OK.
Yeah, OK. We'll try actresses.
OK, let's find out what the question is. We gave 100 people 100 seconds to name as many Jodie Foster films as they could. Richard?
Yeah, as always with actors, we are looking for cinema releases of feature films for which Jodie Foster is credited as an actress. No TV films, no short films, nothing still to be released. There are 39 films that meet that criteria.
OK. You now have up to 1 minute to come up with 3 answers. And all you need to win that £1,250 is for just one of those answers to be pointless. Your 60 seconds start now.
It was on the other day, there was a Jodie Foster film and she played an English lady. Any ideas? I can't remember what the film was called.
I know there's one she was in with Richard Gere, Summersby. I think that's quite rare.
Right, well, let's have that one. Obviously,
Yeah,
the Silence of the Lambs are going to come up,
Oh,
aren't they?
I'll
She was in Flight Plan.
Was she in Carrie? Carrie. I seem to remember she was in Carrie. That might be. She was a child actress, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah, come on, a child actress. What was she in as a child actress?
Well, I mean, just a bit slightly before
30
my
seconds
time.
gone.
She was quite young when she did Silence of the Lambs. That was what was that, sort of late 80s, early 90s?
I wonder if she was in the one where they threw pumpkins at each other. You know, the musical.
Great.
Custard Tarts. It's Prohibition era. The musical.
10 seconds left.
I'm not going to get that.
No.
Look, Flight Plan.
OK. Summersby.
And what's the third?
Carrie, maybe.
OK.
Right.
OK, there we are. It sounds like you've made your minds up about what your answers are going to be. OK, which 3 are you going for?
Summersby.
Summersby.
Flight Plan.
Flight Plan.
Carrie is debatable.
And
but
Carrie.
yeah.
It's a punt.
Yeah.
It could be just what you need. Summersby, Flight Plan, and Carrie. OK, let's see how many of our 100 people went with your first answer. Summersby. For £1,250. This has to be a pointless answer. It's looking good. Oh, no! That means that 2 of our 100 people said that, so unfortunately that is not a pointless answer. You now have only 2 more chances to win today's jackpot. We are looking for films starring Jodie Foster. Let's hope none of our 100 people said your next answer, which is Flight Plan. How many of our 100 people said Flight Plan? This, again, for the jackpot of £1,250. We've got to hope that Flight Plan is a pointless answer. Well, it's good, it's going down.
Go on!
Oh, bad luck. I'm afraid that is also not a pointless answer. You have one final chance. We've really got to hope that none of our 100 people thought that Carrie was a Jodie Foster film. We've also got to hope that Carrie was a Jodie Foster film. You weren't too sure about this, were you? This was a stab in the dark. This is your last chance. This has to be a pointless answer, otherwise you do not win the jackpot. Let's see how Carrie does. Oh!
Sorry.
Unfortunately, you didn't manage to find that all-important pointless answer, so you don't get to win today's jackpot of £1,250, which rolls over to our next show. However, you do get to take home our pointless trophy. Well, I thought you had 2 pretty good shots there. Flight Plan and Summersby. I mean, 2 fantastically obscure films. And they both had Jodie Foster in. And you were on saying she was a child actress, of course.
Yeah.
She was in Bugsy Malone, I think.
That's what I was trying to think of when they're
Bugsy
throwing
Malone.
custard tarts at each other. Yeah.
That's the custard tart.
That wasn't Bugsy Malone, wasn't pointless, was it?
Well, I don't know. Let's go to Richard. What should they have gone for?
No, Bugsy Malone would have got you 16 points. There were 17 films that were pointless, but as I say, a lot of them were films she made when she was a child. A Very Long Engagement, Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, Little Man Tate, which is not a bad film at all, Shadows and Fog, Candle Shoe, Dangerous Lives of Altar Boys, very, very difficult. And, of course, in Carrie, I think probably it's the Sissy Spacek role you're thinking of in Carrie.
Yeah.
Well, thanks very much, Richard. Jean and David, you've been fantastic. Well done getting through to the final. I'm sorry you didn't win the jackpot, but you've done very well all the same. Nobody's won our jackpot today. Join us to see if someone can win it next time on Pointless. Goodbye from Richard.
Goodbye.
Goodbye from me. Goodbye.